good morning, everyone. I hope you had an absolutely phenomenal Memorial Day weekend. I know that your Memorial Day weekend was probably filled with a lot of showings and a lot of activities because we know what, when clients have a day off, they like to go out and see properties. So I know that that's probably what the weekend looked like for all of you. Now, I wanted to go ahead and jump on, and I know today we're a little bit later in the day today. We're also on Tuesday because of course yesterday a lot of people celebrated holiday, but also because Bold started this morning. So before I jump into our market update, I want to talk a little bit about Bold, and I gave us a few extra minutes this morning because they were just wrapping up Bold, Step Up to Bold, which actually literally just ended about probably 30 seconds ago. And so for those that don't know a little bit about Bold, because this is the last opportunity to sign up, so I wanted to go ahead and after class, make sure that I share that out as well. Bold is business objective, a life by design. Bold, I've always looked at as almost like a real estate boot camp. It's very focused on going over the only two things that we control in real estate and in business. It goes over our mindset, right? Number one of the few things we can control in this industry. And number two, our activities, the actions that we take. And so Bold is very much a foundational course around that. Today was Step Up, which was like an introductory look at Bold. It's going to get started next week on Tuesday. And for those that are taking Bold, it'll start at 9 a.m. every Tuesday, and it'll go to noon. Today, I would say I highly recommend that you sign up before then. I'll note we were at 100 registrations for Bold this morning. There are only 120 spots, right? Once those 120 spots are filled, they will start registration for a potential second Bold. If that second Bold does not get enough registrations, there is no second Bold. So I want to be really clear about how that's working out. If you've already registered, which I know some of you have, then you are golden. I know people were texting me this morning as they were registering for Bold. It is going to be an absolutely fantastic experience. I'm really looking forward to it. I've taken Bold 4 times so far. So I am absolutely looking forward to it. So I wanted to go ahead and start there because, it's just a really powerful class. And I want to make sure that if you know that you want to take Bold and you haven't signed up yet, that you do so. The other thing, you guys know, I always want to talk about what is going on in not just the market, but what is happening within our industry. There was a couple really important lawsuits that we're watching over the last couple weeks. One of those was Rex. For those that don't know Rex is a real estate brokerage. However, they are not necessarily, at least from what I've seen, they're not a member of the National Association of Realtors, which means they also do not have the obligation to comply with MLS regulations. With that being said, Rex has a interesting kind of way that they've looked at doing business, which is that they have a portal where real estate, basically buyers and sellers would access their listings exclusively through that portal. And then there's a whole kind of thing behind it. I actually was talking about this with one of our agents who had a client that was looking at a Rex listing and they could not find that listing on the MLS. That is because Rex, as a brokerage that is not part of the National Association of Realtors, is not, again, obligated to comply with MLS guidelines. There was an interesting kind of lawsuit and op-ed that Rex just released. Their co-founder and CEO, Jack Ryan, and their co-founder and president, Lynley Sides, essentially they released an op-ed on Friday and they're suing Zillow. So it's really interesting to kind of see what that looks like. Now, Zillow, that was a syndication platform, which we've talked about, has now become a real estate brokerage. Zillow is now a part of the National Association of Realtors. They've joined plenty of MLSs, which means they have to comply with MLS guidelines, such as making sure that they are sharing out those listings that are on the MLS. This is why, as individual real estate agents, where before, at least with us as a brokerage, we gave you the opportunity and the decision-making power to decide if you wanted to, syndicate your listings to Zillow. You had that decision before. You can no longer make that decision, because now that they are a brokerage, we have something called reciprocal data share, which essentially means we share out our listings as do other brokerages. And Zillow as a brokerage, we have kind of that cross-sharing agreement. Now, Rex is interesting enough, is saying that Zillow is now siding with NAR, which in their opinion segregates discount brokerage and discount brokerage listings so that consumers are less likely to see these listings. So it's going to be a really interesting kind of lawsuit to watch. I wanted to bring it to your attention because I do think, it's important to kind of understand a little bit of what is happening and why this is going to be important. Part of the reason is, while Zillow is kind of the big name, what this is really bringing up is, where are the ethical violations? Is there an ethical violation? Is NAR's policy, is that an ethical violation? That's essentially what Rex is kind of going after. And so while Zillow is the named kind of plaintiff in this particular lawsuit, it's actually a much bigger case that we're looking at. And so I thought that was important to bring that to your attention this morning, to kind of understand what is happening in the industry right now. Just really quickly, I want to make sure you guys can see the slides as we jump into our market update. Everybody good? I'm gonna take that as a yes, my friends. Beautiful. Okay, awesome. So jumping into the showings number, this is really interesting. So I want to know, and we've been talking about this for the past 2 weeks as open houses have opened up. So we know that our light blue line is 2019, which is a little bit more of a baseline, right? That's been a little bit more of a baseline. We know the dark blue was 2020 showings, which was a little bit of an anomaly. We obviously had the full shutdown and then things starting to kind of open back up. We saw that instant kind of over the next couple of weeks after the shutdown was lifted. We saw a bit of that recovery, and then we saw that increased demand, right? That really happened in 2020, which also had a lot to do with the fact that we no longer had open houses. We no longer had the same kind of avenues for people to go out and see properties. And the only option that they had was to schedule a showing. So as we look at 2021, I want to know, we're going to be looking at a couple things here. We know that 2021 started with kind of a growth trajectory. We obviously saw a dip. So we have a couple different holidays that we've seen a dip around. That was, we saw a dip around Easter. We saw a dip around Mother's Day. And again, right now, right, we're coming out of Memorial Day weekend. We also see a little bit of a decline in showing. However, this decline started before the holiday weekend, right? It started before the holiday weekend. Why is that important? Part of the reason that we're looking at this and we want to really look at these numbers, one of the things that we anticipate is as open houses have started to come back, right? Specifically here in California, as open house regulation has been loosened and open houses are no longer a thing of the past, now we have additional opportunities for clients to go out and view properties that are not just scheduled showings. So over the next couple of weeks, as we see this, obviously we're still coming out of a holiday weekend. And so that skews the numbers a little bit here, but we had already started to see this little bit of a decline over here. and obviously decline for yesterday and Sunday. With that being said, we're going to continue to see if this is going to even out. So it's a little bit closer in alignment with what we expected coming out of 2019 before the pandemic hit, where we saw, a little bit of a growth trajectory, but in reality, these two lines, they were pretty similar across the board. We're going to kind of see that evening out. Just to put it into numbers perspective, you can see that these numbers are a lot closer in alignment. In 2019, we saw about a 44.2% growth around this time in 2019. In 2020, we were about 47%. We were releasing some of that pent-up demand for 2020. And in 2021, this is actually the lowest growth. It's lower than the other two at 41.2%. So we'll see a little bit more clarity over the next couple weeks as we kind of exit out this holiday weekend. Obviously, we still have Father's Day coming up, which we'll see that impact there. But we just kind of want to see what this looks like going into the next few weeks, seeing as how we're starting to see a little bit of those dip in scheduled showings. That doesn't mean we're seeing less homes, right? Obviously, there's open houses now, but just in that scheduled showing kind of block. Going over to Los Angeles County pricing trends. Under contract pricing within the last week in Los Angeles County hovered about 749K. Properties that sold within the last week were priced at about 766,000, and new inventory on the market at about 750,000. When we look at under contract, we are up 5.7%, right? That accounts for over $38,000 difference in price in the last 12 weeks compared to the 12 to 24 prior. Sold is up 7.7%. That is up $52,000 higher in the last 12 weeks compared to the 12 to 24 prior, and up 6.2% for new inventory pricing. That is almost a little bit higher than that, $43,000 higher in the last 12 weeks compared to the 12 to 24 prior. One thing to note on pricing, there is a big difference between market pricing and appraised value, right? Market pricing and appraised value. We are seeing this coming in with the appraisals. We've been seeing it for a while now, right? We've been seeing it for a while now. But of course, as you're pricing property, I just want you to take that into consideration when you are pricing out with your clients, that you are talking about the difference between appraised value and market value, and that you are being very upfront about how you are writing these things into your contract so you don't end up in a very long escrow, because we definitely have seen that as well. Looking at inventory trends, right? Just looking at inventory trends. Under contract, there was 1,211 homes that went under contract within the last week in Los Angeles County. 1,301 homes that sold in LA County within the last week. That's pretty akin to what it was at last week. And new inventory, about 1,076 homes that came on the market within the last week in Los Angeles County. Under contract inventory is up 26.9%, sold up 24.1%. That's getting a lot closer there, right? And new inventory up 22.1%. Moving on over to our Orange County trends. Orange County pricing trends. Under contract, pricing hovered at about 860,000 median price point within the last week. 900K for properties that sold in Orange County within the last week, and 875,000 for properties that came on the market in Orange County within the last week. That is actually higher than the last couple weeks. So we can see that red bar popped up a little bit within the last week. Overall, in terms of pricing trends, under contract pricing up 4.7%. That's over $38,000 higher within the last 12 weeks compared to the 12 to 24 prior. Sold up 9.3%. That is over 70. Now, that's a very high fluctuation here. That's almost $75,000 higher in the last 12 weeks compared to the 12 to 24 prior, 75,000 higher. New inventory up 3%. That means properties are being priced about 25K higher within the last 12 weeks compared to the 12 to 24 prior. looking at our Orange County inventory trends, right? Inventory trends. So we can see as we're kind of hovering out of this end of the year, where obviously we saw a lot of these numbers dip, which is pretty akin to the fourth quarter of the year. We can see that there's been a lot more of that kind of consistency across the board over here. And yet we're going to see that this red bar for inventory is pretty low, new inventory coming in the market in Orange County within the last week. That's a pretty significant dip. We're going to see if that kind of changes over the next week. Again, holiday weekend, things like that. It may be that numbers have not been fully reported just yet, right? Because we're coming out of a holiday week. So that happens sometimes where we see a little bit of dip, but it's only because the numbers have not been accurately recorded just yet, because obviously we experienced a little bit of a holiday. So we want to keep an eye on this to see, see this number kind of continue to go up is what we're looking for versus kind of this dip right now that we see in new inventory. So just to put that in perspective, let's put some numbers on that. Under contract, 741 homes that went under contract within the last week in Orange County, 885 homes that sold. That's a bit of an increase here. And 520 homes that came on the market in Orange County within the last week. Overall, under contract is up 27.3%, sold up 30.2%, and new inventory up 17.2%. Looking at our Riverside County pricing trends, obviously we're moving into some lower price point areas over here. Under contract at $485,000 median price point within the last week in Riverside County. For sold, we're at about $495,000 is the median price point for sold properties in Riverside County within the last week. $499,000 for new properties coming on the market within the last week. Overall, when we're looking at those pricing trends, under contract is up 6.2%. That's a little bit more than $27,000 higher within the last 12 weeks. Sold up 5.8%. That's about $26,000 higher within the last 12 weeks. And new inventory at the highest spread here, right? So obviously people pricing kind of ahead of the market or where they anticipate the market going. New inventory 8.5% higher. That's almost $38,000 higher within the last 12 weeks compared to the 12 to 24 prior. So that is the highest in Riverside County, is that kind of new inventory price point. We're seeing that priced ahead just kind of based on, how people are pricing new inventory on the market right now. Looking at the inventory trends, right? Under contract, 629 homes went under contract within the last week. In Riverside County, 659 homes sold and 537 homes came on the market. Under contract is up 24.4%, sold up 18.4% in terms of inventory, and new inventory up 24.9%. So more new inventory coming up. That's been the biggest increase that we're seeing right now is in this new inventory coming on the market, which tells us what? We have a lot of sellers that are saying, hey, we want to take advantage of the market where it's at right now. Looking at San Bernardino County pricing trends. Under contract, median price point within last week was $435,000. Median price point for sold inventory, $418,000. And median price point for new inventory coming on the market at $390,000. Prices overall, when we look at that spread, under contract is up 4.7%. That's over $18,000 higher within the last 12 weeks compared to the 12 to 24 prior. I'm going to note, even though the percentages are very similar, right, to what we're seeing in some of the other counties, what happens if the number is lower because we're in a lower price point, that separation, even though as a percentage it's a higher number, the actual amount is higher. So take that into consideration when you're kind of looking at these numbers. So 4.7%, it's about a little over $18,000 higher. Sold up 5.4%. That's over $21,000 higher. And new inventory up 4.7%. That too is a little bit over at that $18,000 higher within the last 12 weeks compared to the 12 to 24 prior. Looking at our new inventory, 557 homes went under contract in San Bernardino County within the last week. 522 homes sold in San Bernardino County within the last week, and 573 homes came on the market in San Bernardino County within the last week. When we're looking at that spread from a percentage, 21.8% higher under contract. So 21.8% more properties went under contract within the last 12 weeks compared to the 12 to 24 prior. 13.5% more homes selling. We're going to see that continue to tighten up as this under contract stays high as well. And then 24.5% increase in new inventory coming on the market in San Bernardino County. So kind of a lot of different things that we're seeing right now across these various counties when we're looking at some of the trends. I know I've been ramping you up guys for a while that we're going to be switching up some of the data that we're looking at, because I want to introduce some new data to you guys aside from just the inventory numbers and the pricing numbers. So we're going to continue to look at that because it's important, but it's going to look a little bit different starting next week, because I want to give you guys some more information that you can utilize with your clients, especially as we're starting to see, you know, this quarter pickup. A couple things that I want to mention as well. Now, there may be sellers that you spoke to or homeowners that you spoke to, and a month ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, they were not considering, selling. They were not considering kind of taking any action right now. There's a couple things that I want to be really clear about for this month. June is the month that the moratoriums around eviction and foreclosure are lifted at the end of June. So we want to keep that in mind, because now, can that change? Yes. Can California and the government decide, hey, we're going to create an extension. We're going to, extend these moratoriums. This is going to go on longer than it's going on right now. Can that change? Yes. Absolutely. And we will not know until it happens, right? We will not know until those things happen. And yet right now is the time to get in front of those conversations with your clients. Okay. I have talked to clients of not only clients that you guys are talking to, that you guys have kind of brought those conversations, but even clients of my own that are reaching out that are saying, hey, a month ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, we had no intention of selling. We had no intention of selling. And now we're looking at the market and we realize that we can get top dollar for our property right now, and we may not have that opportunity forever, right? And so they're taking advantage of the market right now. Now, does that mean that we tell them, hey, you have to sell now? No, it's not just that, right? It depends on the client. It depends what their motivation is. It depends what they're looking for. So as an example, I had a client, they were looking at potentially doing some renovations on their property. And when they really looked at it and looked at the money that they were going to need to potentially do those renovations, it made more sense for them to sell at top dollar and buy a home that didn't require the renovations than to pull the cash out and potentially over leverage themselves in a second loan to get their home up to the status that they wanted it to be, right? It made more sense for them to potentially sell the home they have now, get top dollar, move a little bit further out, but get more bang for their buck in kind of a lower price point county that's going to allow them to get the things they want without over leveraging themselves on a second loan, right? That's one scenario. Then we have other scenarios where, as an example, somebody was talking about a client that they're working with. The client was in a mortgage forbearance agreement, right? Was in a mortgage forbearance agreement for almost a year, because we came on that year mark recently. And when they looked at the fees that it was going to cost them, right? Once they're looking at their loan modification, they're arranging, payoff and all these things, just in financing fees for the last about a year of mortgage forbearance, there was about $13,000 in fees, right? In fees. So what happened? It made more sense for them to sell. Right? It made more sense for them to sell. So these are conversations that you want to have with your clients, right? We want to make sure that we're talking to them about their options. I don't want you to make the assumption that because somebody, was in a position where they said, hey, we were thinking about it, but no, we want to wait. It doesn't mean, hey, we want to force the sale, right? We're never chasing down or coming from that scarcity mindset of forcing the sale. It means we're having a value-based conversation with the client around this is what's happening right now. And I want to make sure that you're informed about your options. When we come from contribution, when we come from care, when we're consistent with our database and we're consistently placing ourselves as the credible person in their lives around any question around real estate, around the person who speaks the language of the industry, the language of real estate, the person who can be their local economist of choice about what's happening, then they feel comfortable asking those questions and opening the door to that conversation. And so it's more important that you guys continue having those conversations, and that that right now, as we kind of go into this June month, what happens? Timelines, right? Expiration dates around some of these various kind of moratoriums are coming up soon, which means what happens? There's a sense of urgency that the client, the homeowners, the renters are going to have around, oh, great, what happens next? You are that answer, right? They have a question, a problem. You have to be the solution and the answer around that. And so I encourage you to have those conversations, especially as we kind of come into June. The other thing I want to note, I am still collecting data on this, but you guys know, like I mentioned at the beginning with the Rex lawsuit, that I think it's important for you guys to be aware of. The other thing I think it's really important to be aware of, I've seen in a couple groups. I know some of you use Cloud CMA as a tool for doing comparative market analysis, right? For doing comparative market analysis. Obviously, it's a tool that's provided by our Association of Realtors. You can utilize it. It kind of makes things pretty, right? Which is why a lot of people have used it. Now, we know that Cloud CMA has a very public partnership with Open Door. Open Door? Yes, Open Door. They have a very public partnership with Open Door. Open Door is like an instant offers type program where they can put an instant offer on a property. Now, again, as I give you this information, right, I want you to take it with a grain of salt, because obviously, as I mentioned, I'm still doing a little bit of research into it, and still kind of looking at it a little bit more. And yet, as I know things, I want you guys to know them. I've seen a couple posts recently where real estate agents have submitted their clients' information into Cloud CMA to do a comparative market analysis. And then were informed by their client that they received a postcard in the mail from Open Door about making a potential offer on their home. Now, the reason that this is a little bit concerning and why I'm digging for more information about this, Cloud CMA and doing a comparative market analysis is a step before you take the listing, right? That's a step before we take the listing. And so if Cloud CMA and your data is not safe, and that data is going to a third party like Open Door, who is then soliciting for the business, now we have an issue, right? Because now all of a sudden you have a third party company potentially soliciting your client before they're actually contractually your client. That's why I want you guys to be aware of it. So I know of an agent that actually then went in, they put their own property into the listing so that they could see if they were going to get a CMA or any type of solicitation or postcard from Open Door. They received the postcard as well. Now, I have not seen what the postcard looks like. I have not seen what this piece of mail looks like. And so that's why I'm saying take it with a grain of salt. I always want to be really transparent about that, and yet it's a little bit concerning. So I'm going into Cloud CMA. I'm using a address to put it in, and I'm going to see what mail kind of comes in. Now, could it be that this is only, affecting somebody in another state? Possibly, right? And yet I want to kind of be aware about what's going on there. So I wanted to share that with you guys so that if you are using Cloud CMA, that you use it with eyes wide open, right? And kind of about their partnership. Obviously, the partnership with Open Door is very public. In the past, when I've looked at it, I knew that there was an option where you could opt in to receive an offer through Open Door. Now, this was obviously a while back, and when I looked at it, that still kept the agent at the center of the transaction. This new kind of client getting the postcard was new, right? It was new the first time I've heard of it, where it's kind of circumventing and going around the agent, which again is part of the reason why we want to keep your clients in your ecosystem of tools so that we can keep you at the center of the transaction. So I just wanted to share that with you guys today. You know, kind of the two big items of news was this item with Cloud CMA, which obviously we're still kind of investigating a little bit, and then the Rex lawsuit with Zillow. So we can see what happens there, because depending, you know, on what waves that lawsuit makes, it can, you know, have a greater effect on some of the NAR guidelines. And so we'll kind of monitor that as well. One last reminder, I know I talked about Bolds right at the beginning, but again, if you know that you want to register for Bolds, please do so today, right? And I know Bolds is not going to be for anybody. You want to make sure that you can commit to the schedule for Bolds, right? You can commit to the schedule for Bolds, but they shared a great statistic, right? Bolds goes about 6 weeks. And on average, agents are generating between 8 to 10 new pieces of business during that time period. I know I did the exercise on database gap this morning, right? During that bold exercise that they did about what is the gap in terms of the potential transactions sitting even in my own database, just of my sphere of influence, right? And I did it at a 25%. Of the commission versus 100% of the gross commission on those potential transactions, because I know for me, I refer out business. I'm not actively on the field, and even in my own missed opportunity, right? We can all continue to grow. In my own missed opportunity, it's over 100K, right, of missed opportunity, and that's knowing that I have active transactions and clients right now that are coming in straight referrals. And so I wanted to share that with you guys, because for me, knowing that I'm looking at 25% of a commission, and I did it based on a database of 250 people, right? And I'm looking at it based on so much based on only a referral fee on that potential income. I really want you guys to think about what that gap is for you of sitting opportunity that is sitting in your phone, sitting in your database, sitting in your social networks that you can really tap into throughout Bold, right? Throughout Bold. Reminder, Bold, business objective, life by design. You guys know my philosophy is that the purpose of our business is to fund your perfect life, whatever that might look like. And that's really what Bold is designed about. So just wanted to share that one last time. We will be again sending out, if you want to register for Bold, we'll send out the registration link again, and it will get started next Tuesday. So with that, I hope you guys have an absolutely phenomenal rest of your day. Make it a powerful week. And remember, lead generation is an opportunity to find more people to help, right? Have a great day, you guys.
Thank you, Monica.
Absolutely, my friends.